Sure, there's lots of crime in the USA, but we can safely say there are more safe cities in the US than dangerous ones. So calling the whole United States unsafe is intellectually dishonest and inaccurate, and we're not buying it. The other thing they love to do is compare the most dangerous cities in the USA to a city abroad and then say, see, it's so much safer here. Well, that's just wrong because they're comparing apples to oranges. Let's do this the right way and compare apples to apples. Let's take Detroit, Michigan and compare it to Guayaquil, Ecuador. Here we go, bungo! Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. Is leaving the U.S. for a foreign country really worth your time, money, and effort? Well, we're bombarded with messages all day long that say it is. We've lived, retired, and traveled abroad for 13 years, and today we're going to dissect top reasons why people say they move or retire abroad in order to find the answer to this important question. And we're going to look at the top reasons why people move abroad to begin with. The first reason they leave the USA and move to a foreign country is because they say the USA is too expensive and North Americans want to move to a cheaper country where their money goes further and even where they could live in luxury. Unfortunately, we Americans are somewhat of a pride culture, meaning we move abroad to a really cheap country and then show off our $850 or more luxury apartment in a developing country to our family and friends and to the world. Now, don't deny that. We did that too with our first 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, plus office house we rented in Cuenca, Ecuador for just $250 a month. One of the first things we did was make videos showcasing our $250 rental to the world. Now, our home was not luxury, but it was comfortable and spacious, and that is what mattered to us as we moved abroad because we were a family of 5 and we needed the space. But other people don't usually spend the local rates for rent when they move abroad. Most expats go for the gusto. Instead, they go for the $900, $1,200 to $1,800 and up rental homes. Why? Because it's still cheaper than what they were spending back home in North America. Do you get it? Imagine if they stopped paying $2,000 for rent in Texas and moved to Cuenca, Ecuador and paid only $350. Now that's savings. But they don't do that. They would pay 2 to 3 times that amount and still consider it a savings. And the other reason most Americans pay $1,200 to $1,800 is because that's how much those rentals cost if you want to be next door neighbors with other English speakers in a foreign country. It's true, the cost of living is cheaper in Southeast Asia and Latin America, and somewhat cheaper in Europe, depending on which countries you move to in Europe, but expats only save a minimal amount each month, or really none at all, depending on how they live. For this reason, we just don't buy it that people can't afford to live in the USA. What is really happening is that people do not want to lower their comfort level and standard of living. We North Americans want to keep living big, and the only way to do that is by escaping the US or Canada, right? So here comes the million-dollar question. Is it worth uprooting your entire life moving to a foreign country to save $500 on rent, $50 on utilities, and maybe $70 on food and $300 on eating out? Only you can answer that because it's your life and experience. We just covered in a recent video how the #1 country Americans are moving to now is Portugal. Let's look at the cost differences between Portugal and Florida. Please just stop the video at any time to look at the screenshots. I won't run through these, just take a look at them for yourself. Okay, to be fair, maybe you can save $1,000 on rent. The monthly grocery savings isn't very exciting. And you're not saving much on transportation. And if you decide to buy a car and drive, woo-wee! Gas prices are twice as much in Portugal as it is in Florida. Saving anything on utilities is minimal at best. So after looking at the cost of living differences, is it worth it to you for the reason that people say they're moving abroad for? Because it's cheaper? The only time you would save a big chunk of money in your cost of living is by leaving a high-priced state and moving to a developing third world. Is that really what you want to do, though? What are the consequences of that? Here's what happens when we leave high-priced California, Texas, Florida, or New York for a developing country. Number 1. Declining health from unfit water running into your home. This is reality, and if you stick your head in the sand about this issue, you may be sorry with bad health. Imagine having parasites for years and the damage it can do to your body. Many people don't have symptoms until it's too late and the critters have taken over an organ in your body. Not to scare anyone, but left unattended, that is what happens when you have parasites for years. Number 2, if you move to a Southeast Asia developing country, now you're grappling with dirty water and dirty air. Asia is one of the most polluted parts of the world. Expats all the time are complaining about how polluted the air in Thailand is, and it's especially bad with anyone with pre-existing conditions or respiratory issues. Is that worth it to you? Look, 3 of the countries with the worst air pollution in the world are where North Americans move to. To be frank, Baja California didn't have that bad of air pollution, but the water quality, that was horrific. We're sure they're talking about the big cities in Mexico when they talk about pollution in Mexico, like probably Mexico City has really bad air quality. These are some of the realities of living abroad. No matter how much the travel pushers tell you how much better your life will be living in a foreign country, remember this reality information we're showing you today. This information is a slap in the face to all of those crafty sales pieces from the Rams that want you to believe that everyone is just so friendly. Everything is just so cheap, and nothing bad will ever happen to you. This is outright fraudulent behavior, and the only reason they get away with it is because they're operating in an international environment. If they were not, they would have already been shut down, and they should be. Why? Unsuspecting people are risking their health at the very least, and in many cases, their lives. That's why. And if you move to a European country, are you really going to live cheaper? In the end, you have to decide what is important to you. Is the savings moving to a cheaper country worth it? We realized about the 4th year in that living abroad is a sacrifice in so many ways, and we only realized that after we moved overseas. And so now we're sharing with you what we know. Moving on to the next top reason people leave the USA for a foreign country. Number 2, people say they move abroad because there is too much crime in the US. Oh, really? For some reason, people believe this hype about the US being the most crime-ridden country in the world. But most US states are quite peaceful and safe. Where do people live that talk about how bad crime is in the USA? Maybe they live in Detroit, Chicago, or Memphis, or St. Louis, or Little Rock. The USA is a big country. I'm sure people know how not to move to a dangerous city, right? Maybe we should be doing more extensive research about safe areas to live in the great USA. You don't have to live in an unfamiliar environment clear across the world for less crime. It's already in your own backyard. The legacy media is not pulling the wool over our eyes, and they shouldn't be doing that to you either. Everything has a cause and effect, and when the effect is getting headlined all day long on social media and on the news, you're going to think you live in an overly dangerous hellhole. Some of these cities were made dangerous by design, which means by applying a different design it will clean up easily. And some of these cities just got more dangerous over time because of poor management. You don't wait for the pot of milk to boil over onto the stove before you turn down the heat. You nip it in the bud before it proliferates. Crime without proper management produces more crime, and pretty soon, guess what? It's out of control. Here's the reality, folks. Many of the favorite foreign countries that North Americans move to are riddled with crime. Crime is not decreasing in these countries. The reality is, crime has risen significantly in these 20 countries by design and poor management. Ecuador, Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, Brazil, Guatemala, Panama, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Italy, France, Portugal, Spain, Germany, UK, South Africa, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and there are more. Now back to the U.S. crime. There are hundreds of safe, bigger cities that people can move to in the U.S. where violent crime is minimal. And that's because the USA is a big country. Another thing we should take into account, did you know these popular foreign countries, with the exception of Mexico and the United Kingdom, are as small as one state in the U.S.? And then they compare crime rates of this little tiny country to the whole entire United States of America. That's crazy. But even so, you want to play that game? Well, it's our turn now. Take a good look at this crime chart of France, a top expat spot for North Americans, this small country of France, compared with the entire USA. Stop the video and take a real good look. Sure, there's lots of crime in the USA, but we can safely say there are more safe cities in the US than dangerous ones. So calling the whole United States unsafe is intellectually dishonest and inaccurate, and we're not buying it. The other thing they love to do is compare the most dangerous cities in the USA to a city abroad and then say, see, it's so much safer here. Well, that's just wrong because they're comparing apples to oranges. Let's do this the right way and compare apples to apples. Let's take Detroit, Michigan and compare it to Guayaquil, Ecuador. Here we go, bungo! Just stop the video at any time to look at the chart. Now this is comparing apples to apples. This is how you compare crime of the USA to that of another city abroad. You don't take the most crime-ridden city of the USA and compare it to a tourist city abroad. That's silly. Let's do another one. This is fun. Let's take the top hotspot city of Barcelona, Spain, and compare it with a top hotspot city in the USA, like, say, Tampa, Florida. They're very similar cities. They're both located on a beautiful bay, and they're both port cities, and they're tourist hubs. Just stop the video at any time to look at these charts. Bungo! Do you see what I see? Yes, that's right. There's a lot more crime in Barcelona. But wait, Florida is in the USA. So you want to move abroad because you think you're leaving high crime? Well, take a look at these charts and then tell us what you think. Remember, most high crime in the USA is centralized in 10 states. Maybe 15 or 20, who knows. but it's not all of the United States. Just remember that next time you tell yourself you're leaving the USA because it's too crime-ridden. You're moving to a foreign country with less crime. So here's the top 15 expat countries where crime rates have increased exponentially over the past 5 years. Ecuador, Costa Rica, Russia, South Africa, Mexico, Honduras, Jamaica, Colombia, France, Brazil, Thailand and the Philippines, India, Turkey, and Egypt. By the way, this is tourist and expat crime increases. So the big question we need to ask ourselves, is it worth it? Is it really worth it to move abroad? Well, that's it. That's what we have for you today. Hope you found this information enlightening today. Stay safe and take care. Bye-bye.